ahead of the election, you suddenly raised this issue of Easter Sunday attack. Why did you raise it at this particular time?
Well, it's not sudden, and we were aware that previous president appointed two committees, and during the tail end of the election campaign, those two reports were made available to the president. Those were handed over to the former president. So on 6th of October, when president decided to visit Katuapitiya church, I thought he was going there to make those two reports public. And very curiously, president did not take those two reports with him, and the cardinal did not raise about the reports as well. So I was a bit surprised. I was very curious. I felt something fishy. Then on 7th, at a media briefing, I asked the president, why didn't you take those reports and made those reports public? Because when you were in the opposition, you said the reports prepared with public funds must be made available for the public's awareness, because they have a right to know the contents. So I reminded him. On 10th of October, anonymously, I received these two reports by post. So I challenged the president. I then, at the next media briefing on 14th, I said, look, I am in the possession of these two reports. Unless you perform your duty by publishing these two reports, I am going to make those public. President failed to do that within 7 days, as I said, as I challenged. Then I decided to make those public. That's what happened. So this is not all of a sudden. Yes, all of a sudden, because all of a sudden president decided to go to Katuapitiya without reports, and all of a sudden I received these reports by mail.
But the president has pledged that he will carry out his own investigation into this matter. So without waiting for the findings of that particular commission or whatever the report or whatever the inquiry, you decided to proceed with your own action. Is that an election gimmick?
Not at all. President, I just reminded you that what was the president's stand about these reports when he was a member of opposition. He pressed the then president to make those reports public, saying right to information is public have the right to know the contents of the reports prepared with public funds. So isn't it applicable to two reports suppressed by the present president? And president is going to prepare a new report based on a new investigation without making these two reports public. What does it mean? He has an ulterior motive. He wants to suppress these reports to save two of his political colleagues, namely Ravi Senivaratne and Shani Abesekara. Therefore, president has abused his power to safeguard his political colleagues. That's something bad. Isn't it something that we should expose? Shouldn't we bring this to public's attention? So I did my duty as an opposition politician.
So now you have challenged the Public Security Minister, Mr. Vijitha Herath, for a public debate. Will he accept it in your view?
Well, I have been knowing Minister Vijitha Herath for last 25 years. In fact, I first met him at my very first TV debate 25 years ago. So we have been debating a very long period of time, and he is the present media spokesman of the government. I was holding that post in a previous government, and I was a former cabinet minister in two governments. Therefore, I don't think he has any reason to reject my challenge. He has only one reason. As I claim, if he also admit that he was lying to the public, he doesn't want to get himself exposed, then of course he would avoid. Otherwise, I am confident he would accept, because I raise certain issues. Then when the people listen to me, they feel I was correct. But on the same time, when Minister Vijitha Herath responds to me, people may feel, no, Vijitha was correct. But if we debate at the same place, then people have the opportunity to understand what the truth is. I think people have the right to know the truth. So I think Minister Vijitha Herath is bound to accept this challenge, otherwise he will get exposed as a liar.
Yes. Now, actually, you got hold of this confidential document. How did you get it actually? You say that you got it by post. So, it's at a miracle and somebody anonymous sent it to you? How did you get it?
This is not a miracle at all. Actually, and if you are involved in investigative journalism, you are quite familiar with this phenomenon, because I am a politician who expose corruption of the governments, politicians, bureaucrats, diplomats, everybody. Therefore, it is very usual for me to receive information anonymously. There are bold people who visit my office, hand over documents, and some say, sir, if you want me to sit with you at a media briefing to explain this, I am ready to come. There are very few people like that. But the most of the people who provide information, they don't want to expose themselves, so they always send information anonymously. This is quite usual, and we are quite familiar with this kind of situations.
Yes. Now, actually, this Easter issue, this Easter attack, it has become a kind of a political football. How will it backfire for this government also at one particular stage?
Of course, it has already backfired, because they publicly claim they are going to appoint Shani Abeysekara and Ravi Senurathna to probe into this attack to find the truth, which is, according to them, truth has been manipulated, truth has been suppressed. So we have to get the truth revealed by assigning that task to these two officers. But these two reports suppressed by the president say, not the two reports, Alvis report say, they are suspects, they are responsible for the attack, their negligence caused the attack, therefore Ravi Senurathna and Shani Abeysekara must be prosecuted for criminal negligence. So these two reports have changed the landscape. The investigators have turned to be the accused. So I think if government want to do a credible investigation, they have two options. Either they should get involved totally independent people to do the investigation apart from these two officers. Alternatively, they can get the names of these two officers cleared before commencing the new investigation. As if we are going to maintain the status quo, if they are going to commence a new investigation with these two officers, credibility of that investigation would be minus.
Yes. But whatever you might say, now Cardinal or the Catholic Church, they are the most concerned group in this case at the moment. So they don't accept your findings, your revelations, or your viewpoints. So what do you say?
Actually, that was very surprising. When I was to made those two reports public, the Cardinal said that I am also in possession of these two reports, but he decided not to disclose to the Catholic community. Then now Catholic community itself questions why our leader, one of the leaders, suppressed these critical reports from us. Secondly, the Cardinal said, I would reject these two reports because two officers of the present governments have been made guilty by these two reports. That's not a good rationale to reject these two reports. You can't reject reports just because two government officers have made the accused. There must be a rational way of explaining for the reason to reject the report. There was no such explanation. So what I am doing is I don't actually, my duty was to disclose two reports which has been deliberately suppressed by the president. It's not my duty to convince because I am not the authors of these two reports, so I am not bound to convince the Catholic community or the government or anybody else to accept these two reports. Yeah. But one thing is clear, There are several exposures in these two reports. If somebody rejects, they can't just say, we reject these two reports. Instead, they should have gone to the Court of Appeal and quashed these findings. Or alternatively, they should have objected to these committee members at their appointment. After seeing the report, once they find that it's against their beliefs or it's against their friends, that's not a way of rejecting reports.
So now Cardinal, he always talks about a mastermind behind this attack. Actually, what does that mean? Is there any mastermind who is still elusive, or who is responsible?
I don't know the investigative capabilities of the people who talk about the mastermind, but FBI, the world leading investigative organization, as well as Australian Federal Police, have concluded that the people who committed suicide at the blast, as well as the people who are under arrest, are the people who are responsible. So, if somebody knows about a mastermind behind the attack, they should disclose the facts possessed by them. On the other hand, if you further investigate along the findings of the Alvis committee report, of course, if there is any mastermind, that can be found, because present Secretary to Minister of Public Security, Mr. Ravi Seniviratne, had been sitting on the information received by him with regard to the attack for 12 days without taking any action. He has never explained why did he do so. If the government or any investigative arm question him with regard to this, we can find out whether he was under influence of somebody. If there is a person who forced him to not to take any action against Saran's attack for 12 days, that's the mastermind as far as we could see.
Yes, now, but this debate is now focused away from the real culprit now. Even the ISIS admitted that they carried out this report. But instead of debating on that aspect, in Sri Lanka we debate on, this another aspect. This has become a political football. What is
Exactly, because that's what say now Saran did a video to explain why they conducted a suicide attack. As you correctly pointed out, ISIS have admitted that they are responsible for the attack. Thirdly, FBI of USA and Federal Police of Australia have concluded that they were behind this. Instead of going through those routes, ISIS role, nobody now talk about ISIS role in Sri Lanka. And the danger of the Muslim extremism prevail in Sri Lanka without discussing on those topics and taking any precautionary measures. We discussed about unfounded mastermind and leveling allegations against each other. So this is a very sad situation, really disappointing. We are playing politics with national security. That's not a situation acceptable to a nation.
And actually, in your view, why is Cardinal doing it, in your view?
Frankly, I don't know. Actually, you should interview him and raise the very same question.
Do you suspect any political motivation behind this?
He is a religious leader, so I don't want to dig into that aspect of it.
So, but he's playing with the Catholic vote base. He delivered it at one point to
Gotabaya
Rajapaksa, this time to another party.
NPP.
So that is why I asked that particular question.
Well, I am not concerned about that aspect. I think it's something to be thought by Catholic community. That's something to be considered by Catholic community. So I'm not going to probe into that.
Actually, recently, Professor Rohan Gunaratna, who is an expert on terrorism studies, he has said that this attack took place, that is a kind of a operational failure of that government, rather than that our intelligence is not to incur blame for that. It is an operational failure of that particular government at that time. What is your view?
Well, Rohan is a very good friend of mine. We met even very recently. He's one of the world's best terrorist experts. But in this case, there was a failure. Now see, in 2019, we got to know about the attack not from our own intelligence community, but from Indian intelligence organization called IBO, Intelligence Bureau, which looks after internal intelligence of India. And then recently, we received another intelligence about a pending attack on Israelis in Arugambe. That information was also received from the RAW, this time from the RAW. RAW is the external intelligence arm of Indian government. So, Sri Lankan intelligence community failed to find what's happening in Sri Lanka until it's been informed by Indian counterparts. Why? Usually, intelligence community is considered as eyes and ears of the nation. They are the one who see that first. They are the one who hears it first. Then they have the opportunity to convey the security establishment about pending threats. Unfortunately, two successive Sri Lankan governments crush and suppress our intelligence community. As a result, now there are 1,200 approved cadre for Navy intelligence, but there are only 518 people. People are reluctant to join intelligence because of the bitter experience faced by them in the recent past. Our Sri Lankan governments, respective governments who crushed our intelligence community, who harassed our intelligence community, are responsible for the failures of our intelligence community with regard to pending attacks.